Alright everybody, welcome to your godcast today, which deals with the subtraction of integers using tiles or using manipulatives. We're using the old smartboard again, which we've been doing in class a lot. And we're going to use a few tools. We're going to use, obviously, our tiles again. Yellow means positive, red means negative. And we're also going to be using our number line, okay? Because that's going to be handy in calculating the differences between integers, okay? Now I know these things are tricky. There's a variety of situations that you always need to be prepared to deal with. So just listen carefully, watch carefully, and we'll work through this together. We're going to deal with the same two numbers. We're just going to make them positive in some instances and negative in other ones and sort of work at it like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a negative integer and we're going to subtract another negative integer. So in this case, we're going to take -2 and we're going to subtract -6, okay? So we're working left from right, we're reading this question, and we're going to model the first number. So in the first number we have two negatives, so we bring out two negative tiles, okay? Now we want to subtract 6 negatives from this, but we don't have 6 negatives to subtract, do we? So we have to sort of create that situation for ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, when we're subtracting a negative from a negative, what is the difference between those two numbers? So we're going to go over to our handy little number line over here, and we're going to find -2. -2 is right there. We're also going to find -6. Now we want to find the difference between -2 and -6. So what do we do to get from -2 to -6? Well, we know we're going left on the number line because the numbers are getting lower, so we just count the spaces. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's a difference of -4. Okay, so that's what we need to remember. If we go over here, we now know that we need 4 more negatives to equal -6. Okay, so if we bring out those 4 negatives, we have a grand total of 6 negatives here that we can subtract. But there's a rule here, all right? It's kind of like fractions. Anytime you bring in an integer, you also have to bring in its opposite. So in this case, we brought in 4 negatives, so now we also have to bring in 4 positives. Okay? So now we have the correct number of integers that we need to subtract, so we're going to do that. We're going to subtract all 6 of these guys right here. And what we have left over is going to be your answer. So we have 4 positives, so we now know that -2 minus -6 equals +4. Okay? And the way to think of this is you're eliminating negatives from the situation. You're taking them away. All right? So that is that. Our next question, we're going to deal with subtracting a positive from a negative. So we're going to look at the number -6 subtract +2. Okay? Again, we're going to model that first number, which is 6 negatives. So we'll bring in 6 red tiles. And you can do this at home too, just by using red and yellow colored markers or pencil crayons. We want to subtract 2 positives from this situation, but we don't have 2 positives to take away. So we need to bring 2 positives into the situation. And we're just going to do that. Remember what the rule says, whatever integer you bring in, you also have to bring in the equal number of its opposite. So in this case, we have to bring in 2 negatives as well. Okay? The question states, now we must take away 2 positives, so that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take away those 2 positive tiles, and what we have left over is our answer. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 negatives, so our answer is negative 8. Okay? Home stretch, almost done, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get rid of all of this. The last one is we're going to subtract a negative from a positive. Okay, positive 2, subtract negative 6. First step, model that first integer. We want to subtract 6 negatives, but we don't have 6 negatives to subtract from this situation, do we? No, so we have to bring them in. So that is exactly what we're going to do. Okay? We brought 6 negative integers into the situation, so we also have to bring in 6 positive integers into the situation. Like so. All right? We have the 6 to subtract, so we are going to do that. We're going to eliminate these 6 integers. What we have left over is now our answer. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 8 positives is our answer. All right? So now that we've seen it, let's review what it is that we have learned.
Okay, so what did we learn today? Well, we learned that when we subtract a negative from a negative integer, what we're doing is we're actually taking negative numbers out of the situation. So while we think numbers should be getting smaller, they're actually getting larger, again, because we're pulling out those negative numbers, so they're going up. We learned that when we subtract a positive from a negative, we're taking positives out of the situation, so the opposite's happening, and the numbers are getting lower. So sometimes they go past the 0 and to negative numbers. And then we subtracted a positive from a positive, and we saw that it's really no different from a traditional subtraction question from what you're used to. So you just sort of need to bear that in mind. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. That is all I've got for you today on subtracting integers. It's tricky, but stick with it, and I guarantee it'll start to make sense. All right, have a good one. Later days.